Milling.
Here.
Gerald Swett.
Here.
Chris Salatis.
Present.
Dave Westland.
Present.
Beth Hernandez present.
Okay, so we have a quorum. Item number 4 is approval of the minutes. We have no minutes before us to approve. So we'll go on to item number 5, which is public comment. You have a list for me?
Yeah, you want me to just read it off for you?
Sure.
Pete Gibson is the first.
So Pete Gibson submitted public comment via email. His address is 8850 Verbena Drive. He says, I am writing to express my opposition to the requested special exemption for a home-based childcare business within an R1 residential neighborhood. This type of business will surely increase vehicle traffic, noise levels, safety issues, and a reduction in property value. This is a quiet bedroom neighborhood, and any inclusion of a commercial business into the neighborhood will only increase the noise levels from the extra traffic and those utilizing the business. Further, with this business being immediately adjacent to the neighborhood park, the increased traffic flow will cause a safety hazard for those residents who utilize the park, as the clientele of the business will be dropped off and picked up at various time frames and in close proximity to the park entrance where neighborhood children are at play. As a resident of this neighborhood, I purchased our home for the tranquility and the property value, both of which will be diminished if this request is approved. The town of St. John has a business corridor for which a commercial business can be located. It should not be placed in a residential neighborhood. I further believe a business owner whom acknowledged he has a record of disorderly conduct conviction should not be responsible for a child care facility within our neighborhood and or town. I again ask that this request be denied. Thank you.
Do you have any other email while we're at that?
I do. The next person is Patricia Tonkovich, 9994 Olcott Avenue. At the last meeting of September 27th, 2021, you approved the amount of $12,500 to complete a donation for this year of $27,500 to the Tri-Town Safety Village. I am familiar with the Safety Village, but I do question this large donation, as it was also stated Dyer donates $15,000. The website and Facebook page for Tri-Town only list a contact of William Jarvis. I am unable to find out if there is a board of directors for the Safety Village. Do you know if there is, and if so, who is on this board, or is there a liaison to our town? Thank you.
Any others?
I have one comment that last meeting, one of the residents wanted something read and not summarized. He said if we can read what he puts out, or any resident puts out, he would rather appreciate that rather than have it summarized.
Okay. Now you can go to your list.
Amy Schultz.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing my neighbors and I to be here to speak before you tonight. I'm hoping that you will listen to our comments and respect our concerns. We are all here to ask you to deny the use variance for Snowberry Lane. Over half of my neighborhood showed up in person for the zoning board meeting last week, and we expressed our opposition to this variance, and I believe we had 3 or 4 other people who emailed in their concerns to the zoning board as well. I would ask for a moment that you imagine what it would be like if this was your neighborhood on your street and how you would feel. Probably exactly the same way we do. This is a quiet residential area, and we are all adamantly opposed to having a commercial business on our street next door and across from our houses. I believe this variance request is deceptive as well, as it was listed as an in-home daycare use request, but it's not an in-home daycare where the owners are residing in the residence and just watching a few kids. The owners reside on Knickerbocker, not on Snowberry Lane. The owners advised the zoning board that the house on Snowberry Lane would be used 100% as a commercial daycare business. There are plenty of commercially zoned areas elsewhere in St. John where they could locate this business. I heard the standard discussed by the zoning board, was whether the variance will endanger the health, safety, welfare, or impede the normal use of the surrounding properties. I believe it does, and these are my reasons why. Increased noise. It is a residential area where people want to enjoy the peace and quiet of their homes. With increased people, increased children, increased traffic comes increased noise. Our neighborhood is quiet, and we'd like to keep it that way. There will be overcrowding at our park due to the daycare using it. It's not a large park. It's not a Prairie West. It's not a Homestead Acres. There's limited equipment, and it cannot accommodate crowds of children. Our actual residents and children won't be able to utilize the park anymore. And with increased use of the park means increased wear and tear, which means increased costs to the town, all for the benefit of this childcare business. At the zoning board meeting, the owners tried to say that no one uses our park, but they moved out of our neighborhood a few years ago and have no idea what goes on there. I see kids on their bikes every day headed back to the park. I see many moms pushing their strollers back to the park. I see people walk their dogs back to the park because there's an open field and they let them go run around. We use our park and we don't want it overrun by a daycare. The next issue is traffic. The main way in and out is via Shilton Drive. This road is already in disrepair. It's cracked. There are holes as you approach Snowberry Lane. I have to weave around on the road just to avoid the holes and cracks myself. That road cannot handle the extra traffic from a business. It's already used by people trying to cut through and avoid the traffic at 93rd and 41. They can cut over from Patterson, cut through our subdivision, head out to 93rd, and then cut over to 101st and 109th. Quite a few families on our street have children. People blow the stop sign at the corner of Snowberry and Shilton all the time. They don't stop, and some even hardly slow down. I've witnessed our neighbor out in his yard, he lives on the corner of Snowberry and Shilton, yelling at people that don't even bother to slow down for the stop sign. We don't need more cars on our street endangering the families and children that already live on our block. Not to mention that there would be the increased traffic during pickup and drop-off times, which is typically when our buses are trying to drive down the street and everyone's trying to get to and from work and get our own kids off to school. I don't need to get stuck in my own driveway because there's a line of cars on my street trying to drop off at a daycare. Snowberry Lane wasn't made to handle business traffic. We also believe that this variance will be materially detrimental and substantially adverse to the surrounding property owners, decreasing the value of our properties, making it hard to sell in the future as people will be less likely to move onto a street with a business with the increased noise, traffic, all of which would interfere with the peaceful use of our surrounding properties. Who wants to move in next door to a bustling daycare? Probably no one. Another thing was the researching daycare license. Someone who has a history of domestic violence cannot obtain one. Mr. Decker was charged with domestic battery committed in the presence of a child as a level 6 felony on May 19th of 2020 under case number 45 GO3 2005 F6 1032. He tried to correct me at the zoning board saying it was just a disorderly conduct case. Yes, he hired an attorney. Yes, his attorney did a fantastic job and got it reduced to a disorderly conduct, but it doesn't change the fact that he was arrested and charged with domestic battery as a level 6 felony. I would again point out that they don't live on Snowberry Lane anymore. They moved to Knickerbocker. If they want a home-based business, they can do it in their home, on their own street, so that they can suffer the consequences of having a business in a residential neighborhood, instead of inflicting the traffic, the noise, and all the inconveniences on their own neighbors, me and everybody else who's here tonight. I would respectfully ask that you deny the zoning request, as it will be materially detrimental and impede the normal use and value of the surrounding properties. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. I would ask, and if anybody else is signed up to speak, if we could try to keep the comments to 3 minutes, it would be helpful. I wanted to let you keep going because you seem to be speaking for the neighborhood, so that's why I gave you a little more time there. So
I appreciate it. I tried to talk fast.
you made your point. Next.
Cecilia Shirley.
Just to reiterate more of what Amy has said, we do have some kids that are in the neighborhood, a couple of them at least, that have some special needs, also artistic. This, as you know, kids like this type, any changes is disruptive to them. They do use the park. Like she said, they have not lived there for a while now. They've moved, they've rented it out, this house, which is directly across the street from my house. So they haven't seen how the neighborhood's changed over. we have more younger kids again. For a while, everybody was getting older, and none of them had small children anymore. All of a sudden, everybody's selling. We have an influx of small children again. Neighborhoods turnover. This is going to be disruptive for them. They only have 2 miles to Route 41, where all the businesses are. It wouldn't be any different for them having something here in 41 than inside the neighborhood where it disrupts the neighborhood. So he could rent a building and have a child care somewhere along the main drag. The danger of the cars, of people that don't live in the neighborhood, have a tendency to speed. And then if you have somebody that's there that's having a custody battle, then we're going to have danger in the area if somebody's trying to steal a kid, gets upset from their other significant other, and is fighting over the child. The other thing is because it is across our driveway, and they're not going to come in at 6 a.m. in the morning and come and pick them up at 6:30 at night. They're going to be coming in, they say 12 kids, but they could have 12 kids for 6 hours in the morning and 12 kids for 6 hours in the afternoon. That's 24 kids. That's 24 different people in there. They're not going to, it'll just bring more, and there's only a driveway to park in. Some on the street, but wintertime would be even worse, especially for the school buses. The people that live there that do have children, I've talked to them. They don't want to have this in their neighborhood. And then the other thing is, if he ever decides to sell this down the road, he sells it to somebody else. What if this other person decides to change it with some other form? Then it's even worse in the neighborhood. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
Gary, I think it's click.
Good evening, gentlemen and ladies. I've been in St. John,
Name-
13130.
Name and address, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Your name and address for the
My
record.
name is Gary Chick. I live at 13130 Snowberry Lane, 2 houses east of the property that's in question. I've been there for 30 years. I was the second house built on that lot. When I moved there, we had small kids. They've grown up now. The neighborhood's changing. We see an influx of young kids again, which makes my wife and I happy again to see that. I just feel he's owned that property for more than 15 years, supposedly. He's done nothing to it. It's a little run down. Yes, he says he's going to take care of it. I doubt it very much. If you haven't done nothing in 15 years, I can't see that anyways. Just iterating what everybody else says, I think we all feel the same. We really don't want a business in our neighborhood. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mary Mobavillo.
Mary Morsavillo, 13160 Snowberry Lane. I'm against granting a use variance for a daycare at this address. We came to St. John because of the quiet neighborhoods and the family feel. We love the area, our street, and the park. We don't see how granting this would improve or benefit our neighborhood. I currently homeschool my special needs daughter. I think the activity of 12-plus children would be disruptive. In addition, my daughter uses the park almost daily. I don't think it's fair that she and the other neighborhood families would have to share this with the business. In addition to the traffic and noise, we think this would negatively impact the ability to sell our property in the future. We think a potential buyer would be turned away. We live next door, and we think we have the most to lose. I ask you to consider if you would want to live next door to a business like this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak for public comment right now? All right, I'm going to close this to public comment. Item number 6, public hearings. Item A is resolution number 2021-10-27, resolution approving and authorizing additional appropriations for the fiscal year 2021. Mr. Westland.
The proofs of publication are in order and compliant with Indiana code.
Okay. Opening remarks, Chris?
These are additional appropriations for line items that are currently lacking in funds due to projects throughout the year. In some occasions, a couple of them had no money budgeted for them, and so it's balancing of those line items and anticipated spending.
Beth, any comments?
No,
Okay.
not at this time.
Okay. Then I will open the floor to public comment. If anyone has public comment on the additional appropriations? Calling twice? Calling 3 times. I will close the floor to public comment. Number 5, to town council action. Comments from the board.
Yeah, I'd like to ask, if this is about $1 million, and I know we probably should have budgeted better, but I asked a question at the last meeting about the grant money that we lost. Is that part of this, that we have to repay? Is that gonna be in here, Chris? Do you
So
know?
as you can see, it is not. We do have a number now from the NDOT for the 2019 CCMG money that we will owe back. It is in the amount of, and I believe I sent it out to the council when I received it. The 2 invoices they sent total $398,304.81. So we will have to do an additional for that. I'm assuming at the next meeting. As well, not included in here, is we will have to do an additional appropriation for, I'm calling it a gift from 2017. The town had entered at that time into an agreement with the county and Ileana Christian High School to split equally 1/3 of the stoplight at 109th and Calumet. We now received that bill from Lake County Highway Department, and it totals $156,888.62.
So that's gonna have to be figured, and we're gonna have to pay that, which is fine. It's been, 2017 that they put that stoplight in?
In 2017, the town entered into an interlocal agreement with the 2 other entities. I don't know when the stoplight went in. I imagine it probably went in 2018 if the interlocal was signed in 2017. But just not being here, not being around, and nobody here is on the board, complete changeover for the most part. I don't have the exact details of that project.
And then in our discussion last month, I asked why are we taking $500,000 out of the health insurance and now we're putting $250,000 back. I mean, we should budget that better, I think, when we make our budget, because you never know when somebody's gonna get sick, a catastrophe in a family, it's gonna come out of the insurance. So we probably need to do a better job of our guesstimate or whatever, our budget, that we look a little bit better, instead of, every year asking for $1 million or $800,000. I know last year somebody wanted to get $182,000, and we denied that, and there was never no question as to what was the money for. So we have to we have to be better stewards of our money.
I agree. As you can see here, there's also almost $300,000 requested for engineering, as well as some legal spending, and multitude of other line items. So I agree with that comment, Mr. Councilman Pondinas, that the town does need to do a better job budgeting for its expenses.
No doubt about it.
Any other comments? Then I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2021-10-27, a resolution approving the authorization additional appropriations for fiscal year 2021.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Aurelio, second by Mr. Schilling. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
It is approved 4-1. Item number 7, new business. Ordinance ordinance number 1744A would be the municipal budget. 1744 is the town council budget. Which was done in our first action last month, so it's back for the second, the adoption actually for this month. Any questions or comments on the town council budget? Okay, do I have a motion?
Make a motion to adopt ordinance number 1744A.
Thank you, Mr. Schilling. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Blazak. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
That is approved 4-1. Ordinance 1744B. I'm sorry, I don't have that in front of me. Is that sanitary?
Yes.
Okay. 1744B is our annual sanitary budget. Questions or comments on that? Do I have a motion to adopt?
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 1744B.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Schilling. Second by Mr. Aurelio. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. That is approved. 5-0. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Wayne. Okay, I'm sorry. Item 1744C, which is our water budget. Questions or comments on that? Not, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 1744C.
Thank you, Mr. Aurelio. Is there
Second.
support for that? Thank you, Mr. Blazak. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. That is approved 5-0. Item number B is to consider change order number 2 from Haas and Associates for the 2021 Community Crossing Road Improvement Project, which is an increase of $17,107.27. Mr. Salatas.
So we have Matt Mignell from Haas and Associates on. To better explain it, but I believe there's a failure in the subgrade of part of the project area that required additional work. And I'll turn it over to Matt for a deeper explanation.
Good evening, Council. Matt Mignell, Haas and Associates, Project Manager for the 2021 CCMG project. Like Chris said, this is change order number 2 in the amount of $17,107.27. This is for work change directive 1 and 2 when we were performing the milling operations on these roads over here, Judith, Leonardo, and Heather. We had some subgrade failures in the stone, sub-base failures in the stone due to some rain that we incurred prior to paving after we had milled the road. There was only one way in for the trucks and one way out, so it was kind of a perfect storm, unfortunately, that caused some of the road to blow up and fail. We were able to circumvent it by milling an additional 2 to 3 inches across some specific areas. If you look through the change order, we have some pictures with some exhibits that show those areas. And it happened in 2 different occasions. So we had milled out the first time that it happened and went through and was able to pave in a thickened layer of the HMA intermediate from the 2.5 to about 4 inches of HMA intermediate. And in doing so, when we came back to pave the other side and driving the trucks on the intermediate that we had already placed, we had 2 additional areas that failed. At the corners of Heather and Leonardo and Judith and Leonardo. That was work change directive number 2. So we had to mill out 2 small areas there and do the same thing. So we milled an additional 4 inches and then ended up putting in 4 inches of asphalt instead of 2.5. The only other additional thing on this change order is we did have a ADA grate at a handicap ramp at the corner of Primrose and the stop sign of the very south end there, Primrose and Goldenrod. The existing grate that was in the circular structure was not ADA compliant, and so we had to have that swapped out, and that cost for that was an additional $355. So between the 2 work change directives and the ADA grate, that's what gets us to the $17,107.27. This will complete the final cost on this. We have a pay request on here as well for number 2 to get us current with all other quantities. So this would be in addition to the pay request today that we would have to pay moving forward. And then we will have one additional change order after this, which would be change order number 3, which will be a $0 change order. And that is just a balancing of the contract, showing the pluses and minuses throughout the existing bid items. That's required by NDOT for purchase order closeout documentation. And again, that'll be a $0 change order. It's just the process that they require, and it's typical that we do at the end of all jobs outside of even NDOT projects. So like I said, totaling, you're at $17,107.27, and those are for those 2 change directives and the ADA grate casting.
Anybody have questions for Matt? So Chris, you feel this is change ordered, everything is in line and justified?
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on this change order? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve change order number 2 and authorize the town president to sign.
Thank you, Mr. Blazak. Is there support for that?
So moved.
Thank you, Wayne. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. It is approved 5-0. Okay. Item number C, Resolution 2021-10-27A, which is a resolution adopting the fiscal plan for the Fall Graph annexation.
So this is, as you stated, the resolution. Chip, who's here representing Altoff Homes, I believe they will be the purchasers of the property if this all goes through, has presented to the Plan Commission study session already for their proposed project in that area. We had, at the last town council meeting, read the first reading of this. So this is there's also the next part in your agenda will also be dealing with this. Annexing this particular piece of property, which Jason is highlighting for us. Not that middle chunk right there. And if it's the pleasure of the board, accept the resolution and then subsequent ordinance in your next item.
Okay. Comments or questions on the resolution?
I got a comment on the description of the property.
Mm-hmm.
On the bottom, it says no need for park services or similar services. Does that mean they don't have to put a park in?
So this is, I believe this is the, fiscal resolution. This is the resolution that the town has done for all of its annexations in the past, to my knowledge, up for at least the last few annexations, stating that the parks will not be negatively impacted by this. That's not saying that a park will not be put there. That is a function of the Plan Commission. They will decide what goes where. I believe there is a proposed park in the current project that Chip has proposed to the Plan Commission, and if I'm not speaking out of term, I believe he also has mentioned that the HOA may maintain it, but that plan may change as it goes through the Plan Commission process, since it's simply in the study session form right now.
You okay with that?
Yeah, I just seen, I highlighted
Okay.
it earlier, and I'm like, okay, let me find out, ask a question.
Okay. Anybody else have questions or comments on the resolution? Then I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2021-10-27A.
Second?
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Mike, for seconding that. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. That is approved 5-0. And then to piggyback onto that is ordinance 1743, which is the ordinance that actually annexes that property known as 12811 West 109th Avenue in Dyer. We had public comment on this, or public hearing on this last month, and we just adopted the fiscal plan. Are there any questions on this ordinance to annex? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 1743.
Thank you, Brian. Is there support for that?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Schilling. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. That is approved 5-0. Item number E, consider granting a use variance to allow batting cages in the US 41 overlay district at 11101 West 97th Lane. Mr. Salatas.
So this received a favorable recommendation from the BZA with one contingency that traffic controls signage be installed per the recommendation of the town council at its meeting. And staff also made a recommendation. You'll see a small memo in your agenda explaining what the staff came up with. We suggested that a stop sign be placed at the northwest corner of the property, which would be the southeast corner of the intersection of 97th and Earl Drive. It's my understanding that that sign has been put in place already as of 3 o'clock today. So they're ahead of the game on this one. So we are now, we'll have to get a resolution in place establishing that as a regulated intersection, but there's signage now in that intersection, which has been a dangerous intersection, as everyone here knows, as 96 went in place. But otherwise, I think I don't want to speak too far out of turn, but batting cages will be nice.
Okay. Questions or comments?
Yeah, I'd like to, I know Chris had sent out an email earlier on that, and I think you had met with Public Works, the Police Department, the Fire Department, and I want to thank them for their support in getting those stop signs up, and they did go up today about 3 o'clock.
Yes. Dave's got a comment.
So, and I'm probably the biggest baseball fan in the room, so don't get mad at me when I say this, but under Indiana Code 3674-918.6, when you have a use variance or a special exception or a special use, which this would fall within, it goes to the BZA and they make a recommendation to the council. That recommendation is supposed to be, it's supposed to also have the record of proceeding from the body below. So, for instance, and you have two of them tonight that you're considering that originated at the BZA, you're supposed to get the packet from any public hearing, so it would include the minutes, the application, the findings of fact, et cetera, et cetera. You would get all that stuff, and the theory is that the BZA would hold the public hearing, and then you guys would kind of be like a reviewing body in terms of what that recommendation was. In this instance, and in the next instance, we don't have the minutes from the BZA, nor do we have a formal certification that the record is complete from the BZA. So under the Indiana Code, and I saw this coming, so I pulled it up earlier, your job is once you have notice of it, at your first meeting, you're supposed to place it on the agenda, which you have, and then you have 90 days in which to make a decision. If you do not decide in those 90 days, the petition is automatically granted. So you can't just pocket veto it, right? So, I don't know what comments were like at the BZA, and I don't know what happened with this public hearing, and I think I'm not suggesting that this is not a great project. When my kids were little, I'm sure I would have gone there, but we don't have the information from the BZA in front of you other than the findings in Sergio's letter, memo to Beth and Chris saying that this happened. So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
If I could speak, Steve Scott on behalf of the owner, I was at and participated in the September 20 BZA meeting, and other than what was stated as far as traffic flow, which I believe has been now considered and rectified, all the reports, opinions from the BZA members was positive. As far as a report of the proceedings, I was there. The application was considered. The findings of fact was read into the record. And the findings of fact went through the list, other than to consider the traffic flow situation, which has now been rectified.
And I'm not disputing anything you're saying, right? Like, I'm just suggesting that there's a statutory procedure for how this is supposed to work, and we don't.
And this isn't it.
We don't have the minutes, right? And I would tell you that this body has considerable discretion. However, the only time that I think you can get in trouble is when you don't follow the procedure. So you have substantive discretion, but I don't know that you have, my opinion would be that you don't have procedural discretion.
Okay.
If I could, if we would receive the minutes, and can we put it on the next month agenda?
That would be my suggestion. And I talked to Mr. Salatas before the meeting, both for this item and the next item coming up. I think if you would get a certified, if you would get the minutes and you would get Sergio's certification that, yes, this is everything, this is the minutes, this is the application, these are the findings, then you would be within the rights of the council to take it up at your next agenda and vote it up or down at that point. But, and I trust what you're saying, and this one, everything was positive, but there are instances where there are public hearings where they are remonstrances, and those remonstrators have, rights, and so I think it's in our best interest to follow the procedure, get the minutes concluded, and have it put on your next agenda.
The minutes of the BZA.
That's right.
And we don't have those done because they didn't have time to do them, or?
I don't know the answer. I just know that I don't know the answer to that question. I just know they're not in your packet.
Okay.
May I ask a question? What does that mean for all of us who showed up here tonight for the next item? Because you said this affects both this and the next item. Do we have to come back?
We'll get to that one in just a second.
Could you repeat the
We started talking
question?
about both, so I didn't know.
So I'm not used to, I've looked at some of these, but typically I would look for findings of fact, and I don't see those here, other than the fact that it comes with favorable recommendation. So,
I think the finding of facts in the back of here, but the minutes are certainly not here. I thought, they're on the back here, the finding of fact.
oh, they're there, okay. Didn't see the back page, all right.
And kind of to, and I'm sorry, don't remember your name, from what the lady mentioned, one of the reasons that the statutory procedure is set up this way is so that folks who do remonstrate against projects don't have to go to the BZA and then show up at the council again, because their comments at the BZA are part of the council record by virtue of the fact that the minutes become part of the council record.
Right.
So, and you don't hold another, and we've had that before, we don't hold another public hearing, and we typically don't because you're supposed to be relying on the BZA members to hold the appropriate public hearing, hear all the remonstrances, and then make a recommendation that you, I would say the majority of the time follow, but, you have a record in which to rely on.
Right. So the fact that I watched the video of the BZA, that doesn't matter.
You should still have.
I understand.
It's helpful, but it's not dispositive.
The minutes are the problem
town needs to
here,
get
right?
these
Is that what it
minutes
is,
in
the
order,
minutes?
because you're wasting everybody's time.
Yeah.
That was my next question. Are the minutes normally in the packet, and they just weren't this month?
No, we've been behind on minutes because we don't have a minute. Secretary has been ill, so.
I didn't mean to pry too much. I was just
That's right.
curious.
Reasonable question, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, not ill, just had some personal, and just leave it at that. So yes, we desire to get caught up on those, Steve.
Okay.
So we really don't have many options other than to defer this? Is that what you're saying?
My recommendation, you have options, but my recommendation,
Well, I don't-
the best option
Well, I
is
think
to
what we need
defer.
to do is get the minutes and have a special meeting so we can, get it done, because these people need this stuff done.
Yeah, I'm not against that.
We're wasting their time.
Okay.
Well, and I would just say, from a statutory standpoint, that's why it puts a shot clock on it. The statute says you've got to put it on your first agenda, but you basically get several passes at it as a council, right? Like, it doesn't say you have to make a decision at the first meeting. It says you've got to make a decision by the 90th day, or it's deemed approved.
Does your client have a timeline where this is going to cause them great peril if they don't start in 30 days?
I mean, that's correct. I mean, he wants to start putting batting cages in,
Well,
so.
we've already had all the existing tenants leave, except for one. And so we already, we don't want to hold this up any longer than what it should. We got to knock a few walls down and put up a couple of nets, and we're ready to open the door. And so, this being no minutes by your fault is holding this up another month, which is kind of sad, But,
Bad deal.
and I don't know if you realize this, but
They've done
no
everything
one
best.
uses the
Right.
batting cages, indoor batting cages a lot in June or July. And so it's kind of important to get it done when it's still cold out. And so this pushes it back another month. And at the best, we have the architect coming in, quick prints, see what we have to do with those. But, will it be like to be open by January if you okay it today? So now we're looking at February, March,
Okay.
whatever.
No, I like Mr. Schilling's idea. We'll
I
call
can
a special
understand.
meeting as soon as
We
we've
need to
got,
Get the minutes done
I
and get a
agree.
special meeting.
as soon as we get minutes ready, we'll call a special meeting.
When do you think it's gonna be?
I don't have an estimation on that. I believe the building department's in charge of doing their minutes as per council direction in the past. I don't know if I was here for that. However, we do not have, as you said, a recording secretary. We do have the position published on our website, accepting applications for such. We have not received any to this date.
Should be a month or two.
Well, we have some other people that do minutes. Someone needs to get these minutes done, and we need to expedite this meeting next week.
So you do have, since I'm talking about both of them, two sets of minutes, right? You've got the September meeting and the October meeting that are at issue. And I suppose,
You do have
in the
them
interest of
recorded.
time, somebody could just do the part of the meeting that was applicable to these two petitions. As long as they're willing to, sign on the bottom that that's a full and complete copy of the comments relative to that petition.
But you do have the BZA meeting is recorded, correct?
We do.
So you could have the council members review the actual meeting and what was said at the meeting in a matter of a few minutes, right?
Does it need to be written minutes?
It's supposed to be the full record of the proceeding below, right? Like, and I understand the suggestion and I get it, but
I can see if we do have Amy from the, who does the safety board's minutes, if she would be able to find time to quickly do the September, October meeting for the BZA.
Well, I think it needs to be something that
Well,
needs to get going.
We'll try to expedite it as quickly as possible and
I got
we'll
a
be in
lady that
touch.
said she wants to do it, but she wants to do it from home.
Yeah.
So if we can have her do that, I can get in contact with her and see what she says.
Well, we'll deal with the logistics of that. We're going to do it as fast as possible. Sure, you guys are doing all for what you're doing. We want to help businesses in town, so we will focus on getting that done. Apologize
I
for any
appreciate
inconvenience.
that.
And thank you for the stop sign.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting us place it there.
So we need a motion to defer, is that what we're?
Yes.
Okay. So do I have a motion to defer the special use variance for 11101 West 97th Lane?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. That is deferred 5-0. Actually, before you leave, do we have any questions on this project? I know we can't really let him speak about the project, but
I'm going to ask a question if he can't speak about the project.
I want to know if these guys have any questions.
You're our lawyer, you're supposed to tell us this. How do we do that?
That one's a tough one.
Thank you, Steve. All right.
If we had the minutes, they might answer your questions.
That's right.
I don't have questions, so. So then we get to item F, was to grant use variance to allow the child care facility at 130-190 Snowberry Lane, which comes as, with an unfavorable recommendation from the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Mr. President, I just want to point out, I think your agenda, it's a special exception, right? So, and I see in the motion to grant special use variance, there's no such thing. There's a special exception, that's one thing. A use variance is another thing. There's a special use. This is a special exception. Same procedure, right, as we just talked about, but I just want to make sure, especially if we're going to defer it, that at the next agenda we get the language right. Because there is, and I won't bore you with the legal difference, but it is nuanced and it is a little different than a use variance.
So this is a variance. The first one was a variance, this one is an exception.
That's right.
Okay.
Exception.
We'll get that right. All right. So I will look for a motion again for those that showed up this evening. I appreciate you coming to the BZA. I appreciate you coming to this meeting. I wish we could take action on it tonight, but we can't. Well, we're going to defer it. We will be calling a special meeting. All of your comments that you've made, both at the BZA and that you've made this evening, will be part of the official record. So, yes, it's if you want to see exactly how it happens, you may show up again, but you don't need to show up again to speak because your comments are already in the record.
Your person you need to do your minutes, is it just need to be a court reporter to transcribe, or is there some kind of special qualifications? Because there are plenty of freelance court reporters the town could hire out who could probably turn this around in 24 hours for you.
I will defer you to the town manager on that one.
I was gonna say, if you're gonna speak, we really do need you to come up and state your name and record, because it needs to be on the record.
It's
a court
Amy
report-
Schultz, 13131 Snowberry Lane. I was just asking what are the qualifications for somebody to do the minutes? Because there are plenty of freelance court reporters that would be able to transcribe your minutes overnight.
Yeah.
They do expedited work, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal.
I believe, to your point, yeah, someone with court reporting, something of that nature would be preferred.
I mean, I know plenty of court reporters that could do this in a matter of days for you, so I'm just trying to see what we can do to expedite the process since you don't have someone to currently do it.
Please direct them to our town website. We have the position posted right now. And
Well, they're freelancers, so they would just take it as a job, not as a full-time employment. So if you're willing to contract out these two meetings, I mean, I can have people contact you.
Okay.
They should contact you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so do I have a motion to defer?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Wayne, for the support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. That is deferred 5-0. And you are, yeah, if you guys want to leave, you can. You don't have to hang around for the rest of the meeting. Although you may. All right.
We enjoy the.
Item number G is ordinance 1745, an ordinance establishing the procedure for the assessment of costs associated with a fiscal plan study for potential annexation. Chris.
Same ordinance as you saw last time, with the exception of 3 words or 2 words. It just grants sole discretion to the town council to waive the assessed fee for the fiscal study.
Okay. Questions or comments?
Same comment as I had last last month, don't like the word discretion. If you have 3 acres or under 3 acres, you shouldn't have to do the study, and if it's anything over 3 acres, you should have to do the study. The word discretion, one guy can come in there and you say, oh yeah, you have to do it, and the next person, no, you don't have to do it.
I believe your comment is reflected in, at the bottom of the page, I. It says, for any petition that involves less than 3 acres of land, no cost will be assessed for the petitioners for the fiscal study.
Right, but then if it's 3 acres or more, so let's just say it's 5 acres, you want to put a house in the middle, but later on you want to change it and sell part of it and add 3 or 4 more houses, then that wouldn't be right. You use the word discretion, and I think Attorney Westland said something about that last time, but he said he was told to put the word discretion in there when he made it up. So that word discretion just doesn't
Dave,
sit
if
right
you've got a
with me.
better word for discretion, I'll let you answer that.
What I think, yeah, I think what Mr. Pondinas is saying is that it should be a bright line test. Over 3 acres, they pay. Under 3 acres, they don't pay.
Right.
As opposed to what it is now, which is over 3 acres, there's a just judgment call by the council. And I think originally, and I don't recall specifically if this was one that we had a discussion of who should have that discretion. Should it be the council? Should it be the town manager? And that change was reflected because of several councilmen wanted it to not be with the town manager and wanted it with the council. So
Right.
it's a policy-based decision. I think what Wayne's saying is make it a bright line test. And certainly, that's a legitimate policy consideration, and reasonable minds can differ.
So I guess then the question, Wayne, if somebody has 10 acres and they want to put one house on it, are you going to make them do this fiscal study plan
Yeah.
for one house?
I think that's appropriate, because then what happens I've had people that they would build on, I knew people that bought 10 acres, and they build on half, they sell the rest, and they can put another 3, 4 houses on there. It's not right. I don't think discretion just doesn't sit right with me.
Well, you can't put 3 or 4 more houses on without going through the whole plan commission and all
Right.
that stuff.
But I don't like the word discretion.
Yeah, and I can understand the problem with discretion as well, but we haven't thought of all the problems that may come with just a hard line. We haven't thought of all the differences and variabilities that may happen to cement no flexibility within a plan. I think some flexibility is reasonable.
Hopefully we'll never have to use it,
Right.
because the only time it's going to come into play is if we use it and there's some action. And we want to avoid action at all costs. Anybody else have thoughts on this? I agree with both of you. What are the costs for a written fiscal plan if you had 10 acres and you're going to put one house on it? Any idea, Chris?
Baker Tilly gave me a rough estimate of $3,500 to do a fiscal study for annexation.
And that's consistent with what I've seen in other municipalities, typically between $3,500 and $5,000, depending on what's being proposed. A lot of times you don't know that it's just one house on 10 acres. Because they don't give you the plan. Sometimes they do. So, but yeah, that's your estimate is 35 to 5.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'd like to hear a consensus on this somewhere.
Yeah, I suppose I would land on the side of some type of flexibility. I do understand the danger of those things, but also, what if it's 3.01, right? The guy's paying 3,500 versus the guy that's 2.99. You know, I suppose you could have, you got to cut things off. I understand that, but then there also may be a situation where it's advantageous for the town. It's something that makes sense. 3,500 doesn't seem like a lot of money to us, but maybe a lot of money to that project, and that just kills it. I don't know. You haven't thought of all the reasons why it may be a bad idea. But doesn't mean you have to do anything, but it allows you some flexibility. And I've done some developing, I've done a lot of business, and you'll be surprised at all the things you don't know when you get into things. Lots of surprises in life.
Any thoughts, Mr. Schilling?
No, I don't have any on it.
Okay.
You don't need two separate motions, though. You got this listed in the agenda as a motion to consider. I mean, you're at second reading, so it's either
Motion to
adopt, deny, or defer.
Right. Okay.
I guess I'll make a chance. I'll make a motion to accept 1745 as amended.
Adopt?
Adopt. Right, you said we can adopt, right?
Right, you said accept, though. I don't know what that is.
Adopt, forgive me.
Yeah.
Adopt 1745 as amended.
Okay, it's a motion from Mr. Aurelio. Is there support for that?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Support by Mr. Schilling. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
That is approved that is adopted 4-1. Okay. Item H, consider ordinance 1746, establishing vendor fees and adopting vendor agreement. Mr. Salatas.
I will first say the same as David just said before, this would be a motion to adopt. This is the same one that you had seen last time, again with the exclusion of about 3 words instead of, it just reserves the right to waive the fee to the town council, both in the ordinance and on the draft agreement that we have. I believe it's attached, yes.
Questions or comments?
Same comment as the last one.
Okay.
The word discretion just doesn't sit right with me. And why can't, if you wanna, if it's a religious group or like Cub Scouts or something, why can't you put that in there and say that they don't have to pay or whatever, set that fee ahead of time? I just don't think that that's right.
So I just want to clarify one thing for Wayne. You could exclude like nonprofits, but if you started to like drill down into like religious Cub Scouts, whatever, then you get into like having to look at like the content of what the group is, and that's where you get into like First Amendment issues. So it's a valid point, I think, that you could categorize differently, but I think you got to be a little careful about like the example. Yeah, the examples you gave, I wouldn't be comfortable with, but nonprofit versus for-profit, that's a way to do it. But
well,
that's also a judgment call.
That's why there's just some discretion here, because if the fire, for example, if the fire department wants to have vendors at their fundraiser, and we have an ordinance in place that says they have to pay, now they can come to us and ask for us to waive those. And if you plan this far enough in advance that it can be at a town council meeting, this ordinance, the way it's written, then will give us that flexibility. We don't have that otherwise.
As long as we have the minutes.
Excellent point.
That makes sense, Wayne?
It makes sense, but I don't like the word discretion. It's almost like discrimination.
No,
That's just how I feel.
it's got the same root.
Discrimination,
Exactly. Yes, I understand.
Yes.
But, we don't want to hamstring somebody who's trying to, our fire department or police department, who's running a fundraiser on public town property by making all of their vendors have to pay.
Right, they may have a simple but fun vendor that's not extremely profitable, and they're not coming if they gotta pay a vendor fee, some, possibly.
And some make good money by coming to the events.
And some don't.
Right. Okay. Do I have a motion? And again, this would be a motion to adopt ordinance or deny ordinance
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 1746
as amended.
as amended.
Thank you,
I'll
Mr.
second.
Schilling. Thank you, Mr. Blazak. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
That is approved 4-1. Item I, consider resolution 2021-10-27B, which is a resolution approving the road impact fee documents.
So the road impact, the impact fee review board had met 3 times for probably almost near 3 hours each time. At the conclusion of their 3rd meeting, they had approved the documents created by both the ARSH group and First Group that govern the program for the road impact fee. And we felt it prudent that the town council also adopted by resolution the 3 different, one's a manual, the other one's the forms that will be used for credit, appeal, and application. And then what's called the ITE, it's basically the spreadsheet list of all the different land uses and how they're calculated. They're rather thick documents. But we're just asking for, they've already approved it, so I'm just asking for a subsequent approval by the town council.
Okay.
By resolution.
Questions or comments?
Yeah, I don't have the documents.
Okay, I believe those were sent out digitally, so they're not in your packet.
Well, how do you sign something if you don't have it? So you can't look at it.
Believe it's, I believe there's a printed version for signature, or at least the resolution here.
How many pages are this?
It's a lot.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
I believe the ITE is 39 pages, the manual may be in the area of 20, and then there's 3 forms.
Right.
Again, I believe it was sent out digitally.
Is there urgency on this to get this done tonight?
There's not, we have not had any appeals for the road impact fee, so this can be deferred so you can review those documents on your own. Again, they're pretty lengthy. We also have the recorded meetings as well, if you'd like to view the roughly 9 hours of recorded meetings that the ARSH group and First Group go through explaining the program and how it operates. They go through the manual sentence by sentence. I believe that's on our YouTube page, so it's...
Good weekend work, right?
Yeah,
So-
if you want something to put you to bed at night, that's
If you
when
want
you do it.
If you want to make a motion to defer this, Wayne, so you can review the documents, I'm fine with that.
I'll make a motion to defer.
Yeah, I think we should defer.
Okay. There's support for Mike's motion.
Second.
Okay. Support by Wayne. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. That is deferred 5-0. Okay. We move on. Consider Resolution 2021-10-27C, a resolution allowing the town to join Sourcewell. Mr. Salatas.
So I'm requesting that we join Sourcewell, which is, it costs nothing to enter into. The Parks Department had joined Sourcewell earlier this year in order to do their skate park project. I'm requesting that the town join. When the parks joined, it did not include the town as a whole. So I'm requesting that the town join, mainly for the purpose of purchasing the street sweeper, which will be on a lease. And it's going to be purchased through the company, through the Sourcewell program. And Sourcewell programs, it was already been used by the town, as I stated, and it's been widely used by government agencies across the nation. It's housed out of Minnesota, created through their, I believe, state legislature. They do bidding processes that help cut down on local governments having to do their own bidding process.
Questions or comments?
With that, we don't have to bid, we just go to whoever, like if we go to Elgin Sweeper, it's automatically with Sourcewell, there's only one price?
Correct.
All right, so yeah, there's no haggling.
Great.
Just-
Yep. And all their bids, prices, specs, everything are viewable on their website, so it's an open, transparent system. Everything's right there. You just have to know what you're looking for as far as street sweepers, pencils, tires. They have all skate parks even. They've got it all.
So this is a really good idea for a number of reasons. Number one, it doesn't cost anything. Number two, through the cooperative purchasing organization, which has been approved by the state and approved by statute, that agency has pre-bid all sorts of different things. So it's an exception to the bidding statute, which takes time, money, and professionals to get bid specs together and things like that. You can go directly to Sourcewell, know it's been pre-bid, know you're getting a good price, know that the process is already approved by the state. And then, if on a particular item, if you decide, you look up their price and you say, I don't want to do it, I think I can get a better price from bidding, there's nothing that precludes you from bidding it anyway.
Right.
So I think it's a win-win, and I really don't see a downside.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2021-10-27C.
Thank you, Brian. Who's support for that?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Schilling. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. That is approved 5-0. Item number K, approving the police department's 2012 Dodge Charger to be placed on the state of Indiana auction site. Any other additional comments to that, Mr. Swatus?
No, this was the Charger that the police department was originally looking to sell to a community in Illinois, I believe. That deal seems to have fell through, so they're looking to now dispose of it through the state auction site. You got the memo right here from the chief.
Questions or comments?
No.
I'll look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the disposal of the 2012 Dodge Charger and to sell it on the Indiana auction website.
Thank you, Mr. Schilling.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Blazak. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. That is approved 5-0. Item 8, correspondence, town council.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start
Oh,
over with, I'm
yeah, not a
gonna
problem.
start on Wayne's end.
Okay. Well, going back to the park department, the Gate Skate Park, construction documents are complete. The electrical conduit work scheduled for a week, November 15th, is expected to take 5 days to complete. Remaining work scheduled to begin next March as soon as weather allows. Founders Park, playground equipment installed, site concrete next week. Christmas in the park, maintenance staff busy preparing Prairie West Park for the event. 2021 Community Garden Recap, the garden is closed for the season on October 31st. 35 out of 39 garden boxes were reserved for this season. Received a lot of positive feedback from gardeners, and I guess it was all successful because the appointed garden committee was instrumental in its success. The Boo Bash Recap event held last Saturday at Prairie West. Trunk or treat, pumpkin decorating, games, and train rides, very well attended. Thank the clerk treasurer, police department, and town manager for participating in the trunk or treat, and not last but not least, all our residents. On the SCADA system, excuse me, well, Public Works is getting 2 trucks. The dump truck that we signed for, that'll be in the play, the new, the big dump truck, and they're gonna get a pickup truck. The SCADA system is almost ready on the water side. Austin Electric is recommending that we use 3 VFD valves or switches for wells 3, 4, and 5. They're outdated. The cost to the town will be $127,000. Some of that cost is with the install with the SCADA system. Matt Austin wants to work that in. He said, "Do you think that'll be approved?" I said, "I think so." It went before the the water board last week, and they, just because they got the information at the last minute, they said, "We want to look at it and make some ask some questions, and then decide what they want to do, which they're probably going to do. With the advantage of the VFD valves, right now when you turn them on, it uses a lot of power. When you turn them off, it uses a lot of power. We're going to get a NIPSCO credit or a rebate, and it goes on, I think it's the horsepower of the motor or the pump. So that'll be good. And like I said, it's going to use less electricity, so we're probably going to save some money on that. The stop signs were put up for 94th, 97th place in Earl Drive, which is good. And then on building licenses, we have 247 in-town businesses and 937 out-of-town businesses for a total of 1,184 businesses. Right now, if everybody in that group, in that 1,184, are up to date with their payments, that's $76,450 that goes to the town. So if we increase, and we had talked about that, but we didn't follow through, I don't think. If we increase each one by 50, each category by $50, that brings us up to $135,650 for a difference of $59,200 that we could make if we raise the price by $50. And then that would help building, planning, and electrical, and the fire department on their inspections. So that money would go back, it would go back to the town, but we could use that money to pay the inspectors and to do that job the right way.
Okay.
And that is it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Schilling.
I was at the last safety board meeting. Chiefs gave their report. Fire department had one member leave. They hired another full-time member to take their take their place. That was pretty much it from that meeting. Now on to tonight, we have the issue of the minutes, and I would like to see us get that solved here pretty quickly, because Wayne wants to raise business licenses, but we had people from the business community come out here tonight. We wasted their time because we don't have our minutes in order for our meeting, and then it's something that's gone on for a long time. It's gone on before I was even on the council, but I think that relatively quickly we need to get that problem solved, because it's not good to waste people's time over procedural things. So I'd like to see that get solved quickly, and then expedite the meeting to get those items back on. And
Yep. Okay.
I have nothing else.
All right, Mr. Aurelio.
We are fast at work in our Economic Development Committee. We are moving forward with the help of our town manager as well with our waterfront district. We are also in contact with the city of Carmel. We are arranging a trip down there with our president of our Economic Development Committee, along with our plan is to have our building and planning director, a developer, and we're going to go down there and learn. We've been in contact with a gentleman who's been a councilman there since they had 17,000 residents, and now they have many, many, many more. So I want to thank them, the city of Carmel, for their willingness to host us. We're planning on doing that in the next 45 days, and I hope that we will glean some knowledge and some wisdom that made that a nice town, and that we could use that knowledge here. That's all I have.
Okay. Mr. Blazek.
Basically, we see a lot every month about building and planning, so I don't have to bring you up to date primarily on all the things that are going in town, all the developments that are being brought to fruition. I want to address the road impact fee. To date, from July 13th, when it went into effect, we have approved and paid for 109 units for a total approximately of $268,541. It's been brought up in the past that we have not recaptured the fees paid of 167 grand. Now the 268 has now got 100,000 already in the kitty. And supposedly right now There are 26 more permits that are still unprocessed, which will further add to that $268,000 balance. And we already have a guarantee of 10 so far for November. That doesn't count all the rest that's going to be pending in November, and with the winter building season coming on, we have no idea how we're going to finish off the year. All I can say in total is it's going to be a very, very busy year when it wraps up and we find out what ultimately we're going to end up with houses built in the town for 2021.
Okay. All right. Beth?
I have one item, and it relates to the Christmas Eve and Christmas Day holiday. The personnel policy states that if a holiday falls on Saturday, we observe it on Friday. If a holiday falls on Sunday, we observe it on Monday. However, this year, Christmas Eve is an observed holiday that already falls on Friday. So therefore, we cannot observe Christmas Day on Friday because it's already a designated holiday. So it is our request from the consensus of town employees that Christmas Day be observed on Monday, the 27th. We would just need approval from the town council.
Okay. Questions, comments on that? Otherwise, I won't.
This day off, is it one that's already in the ordinance? Because it seems like Christmas is something that every year we have to.
But when a holiday falls on Saturday, the policy manual states that it's observed on a Friday.
Yeah.
But Friday is Christmas Eve, which is also a town designated holiday.
Alright.
So you can't observe Friday for two holidays. So I think it happens like once every 7 years.
Maybe 8 if you include
Leap year. Yep. So instead of observing it on the Thursday before Christmas Eve, it's kind of the consensus that they would like or prefer a Friday and a Monday off instead.
Not a problem. Did they put that to a vote?
I would. No.
I don't see a problem with observing it.
So you
on
want to
Monday.
make that as a motion then, Mike?
Yeah, what's the date on the Monday, the
27. Yep.
All right, I make a motion that we observe the town holiday of Christmas Day on Monday, the 27th, 2021 this year.
Okay, is there support for that?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Aurelio. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. That is approved 5-0.
Do you have the same problem with New Year's Eve and?
I was looking
Well, we
at
don't
that.
get New Year's Eve off, do we?
Yeah, there is no New Year's Eve
No,
off.
because, well, no, because they would just take Friday off.
Got it. I didn't know if
You went-
New Year's Eve was a designated holiday. You
It
know,
is a designated holiday, but it's on Friday, and so then we just wouldn't work on Friday.
right. But New Year's Day is still
Oh, New Year's
Saturday.
Day, I'm sorry.
Yeah, New Year's Day
I
is
thought
Saturday.
you said Eve. No, so
Yeah, but
they'll
New
have
Year's
Friday
Eve-
off.
New Year's Eve, I don't think is a town holiday.
New Year's Eve is not a town holiday.
Got
We're
it.
closed to the
It
public.
is short for evening, so that's supposed to be outside of.
Yes, no, so
So we'll observe the first on the Friday,
on the 31st.
31st.
Got it.
And then I guess just for the public, usually our office is closed on the 31st. We will be closed to the public on the 30th instead
Okay.
for end of year.
Anything else, Beth?
Nope.
Mr. Westland, anything?
I have nothing.
Chris, anything else?
Again, just want to hit on the stop sign on Earl Drive. That's going to be important. Just everybody in the community, again, I'd ask that we observe stop signs, traffic speeds. We had an issue I mentioned at the last meeting with by Clark Middle School speeding. Thanks for the police department for helping monitor that situation. 5 of us went to the MS4 conference Monday, Tuesday, because there's a new permit coming down through the state. They'll be going again in May, where we'll get more information on that. Purdue/LTAP came out with a draft MS4 ordinance and technical standards. that we received at that meeting, so we'll go through that. It may be something we may want to look at adopting, as it's going to be, again, part of the new rules that are coming out for the MS4. Fire department's burn house went well. We'll have the October 30th community cleanup with Suncrest this Saturday. I attended the Chamber of Commerce for the St. John Dyer Chamber, updated them as to the things that are going on in town. They found it very informative. And that's what we have, other than what was already stated throughout the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, item number 9, request to purchase. Beth?
Okay, so we have 11 requests or RTPs. One is from GOW Inc., Waste Management, National Hose Testing Company, Image Trend, Emergency Medical Products, Seal Master, Minor Electronics, Curve Night Vision, Core and Main, and Superior Engine. Those 11 RTPs amount to $124,127.38.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the request to purchase as submitted by the clerk treasurer and authorize her to pay the same?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Is there support? Thank you, Wayne. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. That is approved 5-0. Item number 10, payment of the bills. You have the vouchers in front of you. Questions or comments? So you have the vouchers in front of you for the amount of $1,565,280.14. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to pay $1,565,280.14.
Thank you, Brian. Is there support for that?
Second.
Thank you, Mike. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. That is approved 5-0. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.